All right, normally I'd say welcome to the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. But when the esteemed Mike Claiborne is with me, it's Karraker and Claibs on STL Sports
Good
Central,
enough for me.
presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Claibs is in today on a Tuesday. Good to see you, man.
Better to be seen and viewed these days when you get to this point in life.
we are in the same boat, no doubt about it. We got a lot to cover, and we've got, man, so many years of experience. You know, we've been doing this, Mike and I. We've been doing this for 42 years.
You're 42, I'm 44.
Yeah.
That's damn near 100.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and we have never. Here's one thing I tell people when we talk about this year's Cardinals, and we're the same way. We're virtually the same age, but we've never seen this. You know, Mike, when we were growing up in the Cardinals in the 70s, they had Gibson, Hall of Famer, Brock, Hall of Famer, Simmons, Hall of Famer, Hernandez should be Hall of Famer. It was a different deal in the 70s than it is now. Granted, they didn't draw and they didn't win an awful lot, but we've never seen a young team that's just kind of floating around 500 in our entire lives. Maybe the closest thing would be the early 90s, but even that team had Ozzie and had some guys.
They had a collection of veteran players, probably on the other side of their careers, but now you see a team with a lot of young players who we don't know how far they can go with their careers. And I think that's been the head scratcher because, as you mentioned, the other teams that we've seen have gone through this in one way or another. We've seen the Blues do this a couple of times. We saw the football Cardinals and the Rams go through this. And it's something that we say, okay, that's too bad for them. And now when it falls in your lap, you're saying to yourself, well, wait a minute, how do we get here? And there's a lot of different reasons on how you got here. The question is, how do you get out? I like what I'm hearing. I haven't seen it all yet. But I still think we're still in that evaluation period about, okay, can he help us? Can he make a better player? Is he a winning player? Is he a component or is he the core? And so those are the things you're going through now. And now that we're at September 2nd, probably can make a list out for you on what I think.
I think we've seen enough runway and we've seen, abort and we've seen crashes. We've seen it all.
A couple of Maydays that have taken place.
No doubt about it. But I wonder, with the way the Cardinals are set up now and the market size, I think rational people understand that they aren't going to spend like the Dodgers or the Mets or the Yankees. And it's going to be hard to keep players and consist. My point is this, and I wanted to get your take on this about a salary cap. I think the only way that baseball can have a franchise like the Cardinals or the Twins or the Pirates consistently compete is by having a salary cap.
I agree.
In football, you've got the cap and you've got the Chiefs every year. You've got the Steelers every year. You've got the Vikings every year having an opportunity, and you don't get an advantage from being a large market team because of the national revenue sharing and the equality with which teams can spend. Yeah. Do you think that could or should happen in baseball?
Yeah, I think it should. I think here's the challenge, Joe. You have to make sure your TV situation is set up properly, because when you look at the NFL and the TV money that they reel in, the NBA, they do the same thing. You have not only a national TV concern, but you also have a local TV concern. And so once you get that squared away, I think now the players that have a better understanding on what money is available compared to just pulling a number out of the sky. And that's where I think we're at now, where everybody's like, well, we want our money, but we don't even know where the money's coming from, because different teams had different local agreements on what their revenue was going to look like. And some teams or some companies just walked away from certain teams. So that's got to be defined first, because as we've looked at the other sports who have a salary cap, every one of those sports has grown exponentially with regard to revenue and players getting paid. Now, the NHL doesn't have the revenue stream that the NBA or the NFL has, but you know what? Those guys are making top dollar in their industry.
Yeah.
And that's something to be said. Now, they have a couple of teams that may struggle gate-wise, and they're more Canadian teams than they are teams in the U.S. But, when it's all said and done, I think it's been best for them. I know it's better for the NFL.
And Edmonton, back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals appearances, right?
Yeah.
If we didn't have a salary cap, they would have no chance.
None. And when you look at the cap, and let's just say if we have it in baseball, I mean, you look at the teams you mentioned, the Dodgers and the big money teams, but, Tampa has shown a way to
Mhm.
find postseason play. There have been some other teams because you know what they've been able to do? They've been able to develop internal pitching. They've been able to grow players within their own organization. All those years they may have been picking anywhere between 1 and 10. They've been able to develop a structure on how to get those kids ready closer to the big leagues compared to some teams who draft late in the draft and they think, well, he'll be here someday. Yeah, no, I don't think today, though. And I'll give you another one. When I look at the Baltimore Orioles, this is a team that was losing 100 games as if it was, they were going to get a trophy for it. And I thought that they would be further along now. Now they have to make some decisions because you know what they didn't do enough of? They didn't develop pitching. And if you don't develop pitching within your own organization, it's hard to win, man.
And if you're going to give up assets, and Corbin Burns is in the last year of his contract, you've got to sign him.
Yes.
You cannot allow assets like Corbin Burns to walk out the door. And they let a couple of pitchers walk away. They probably, even though he didn't pitch well for them, Jack Flaherty's going to pitch the second game of a playoff. He started the last game of a World Series last year. They could have kept Flaherty in Baltimore if they would have wanted to, and they didn't. And they've just gone about the rebuilding process in the worst way. And that's what the Cardinals need to do. What you need to do is identify your star players and then keep them. And Baltimore hadn't done that.
They haven't, and it looks like they're going to go through that phase one more time. And I think you're right about what the Cardinals have to do is, all right, who is Mason Wynn? Who is Brendan Donovan? How much can they help us build? I mean, you have some other players that you've seen, and they seem like they've been here for 5 or 8 years, and you still don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So you have to make a definitive decision on, okay, this is who he is, and this is how we see him helping the team. Or you say, this is as far as he can go. We may be able to get something for him, and maybe he goes somewhere else and has a successful career. And, that happens. That happens a lot. So when that does take place, you just have to move on from it. You're not going to get every deal right, and every player is not going to turn out to be an all-star.
All right, we're going to get to your chats, but a couple more things. Number one, I got a text from a mutual friend of ours yesterday asking, is this rock bottom during the 11-3 loss? And I said, well, we are 2-4 against the Rockies. But yesterday was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was. Listening to Sonny talk after the game, he felt like his stuff was good, but he stayed in the middle of the plate a little too much. And I think for a veteran team or a team that's not free swingers, Sonny's probably going to dominate them. But these guys jump off the bus and they just want to swing the bat. 45% of their scoring comes from the home run. They have 4 guys with over 20, and 2 of them probably will hit 30. So you have to be conscious of the fact that it's kind of like when you're a veteran going back to minors for rehab, and you start pitching to those free swinging youngsters, and all of a sudden you just whack, and you like, wait a minute, I worked at the big league. Well, we're not at the big league, and I think that's one of the things you have to be careful of.
And he was so good the first time through the order too. Second time through the order, yeah, he did. He got ambushed a lot, and you're right about that team. They starting with Jacob Wilson, but the whole gang, they just swing the bat, and it's fun. I don't know if long term it's sustainable, but it's fun to watch for a day.
Yeah, I mean, if they get a little pitching, like the young man they had throw yesterday, Luis Morales, I thought he was really good. Now, granted, first time you've seen him, but his sweeper was working. He's touching 97, 99 on the fastball, and it was impressive. Now, with that said, on the other side of that coin, the Cardinals have done a lot of swinging and missing over the last 2 games. They've struck out 27 times over the last 2 games. That's a whole game.
Yeah.
That's 27 outs that all went down on the strikeout.
Claibs, I got a stat for you. And this is an old-timey stat, so don't kill me for this, but it's fun. So Jordan Walker has struck out 6 times in the last 2 games. It took Stan Musial 8 years of his career to strike out 6 times in a month.
It's frightening. When you think about, and Ali and I have this debate about the impact of a strikeout. I always believe nothing comes from good from a strikeout. Compared to if a guy makes contact, maybe he can move a runner off. Maybe he can get a fly ball. There's a lot of things if you make contact. Yeah. Right. Once you make the other guy handle the ball, something might turn out to be good. So it's one of those things where I just don't see, where the strikeout helps you at all. And I know some people have poo-pooed that stat. I think that's the one stat that doesn't lie, because strikeouts can kill rallies. Strikeouts can create other strikeouts down the road. And it's just one of those things that with all the numbers that we have today, and I rarely admit I don't sift through all of them because I don't need my head exploding over this, but there are certain things, the basics of this game that don't lie. And that's concerning. And now you're going to go with Severino today, who's had his problems, but he's a veteran pitcher. So who knows what's waiting on?
Yeah. By the way, the leading hitter in the National League right now is Trey Turner at 301, Freddie Freeman at 300. And then those are the only two that you got at 300 in the
We may have a season this year where no one will hit over 300.
The lowest average for a National League batting champion ever, Tony Gwynn in 1988 at 313. And we might not have a 300 hitter.
It's been an interesting year. It's been a different year for a lot of different reasons because we've had so many new players come on the scene that we're excited to see. And you have some teams that have had their highs and lows. I don't know if I've ever seen a season where so many alleged good teams had these long streaks, both good and bad.
And I don't know why that is, but there's no consistency.
Pitching, not enough pitching.
Yeah, and even the Doyers, right? That you look at them, and because of all the pitching injuries, you never know what you're going to get. Like Emmett Sheehan, you never know what you're going to get out of him. He can go 8 shutout, or he can go
I
one.
saw that once.
Yeah, right. Or he can go 1 1/3 and allow 7. And yeah, even the good teams have those issues, and it's really hard. And that's one thing the Cardinals have done really well this year is keeping your pitchers healthy. If you could have really good pitchers that you keep healthy, you're going to win.
Look at the rotation. They haven't missed a start.
No, it's amazing.
John King, I believe, was the first guy from that pitching staff that went on the IL.
And didn't even have an arm injury.
Exactly. So you tip your cap to the medical staff and the coaching staff and certainly the manager in not overusing guys and putting guys in situations where they're not going to succeed.
Okay. Before we get to the chats, I want to ask you something that I referenced on the TV show a little bit this morning. And that is, I was reading about Julio Urias, suspended by baseball after the 2020 season, after the 2022 season. So he's missed 23, 24. This is 25. And he was going to be a free agent after that year. He has done everything that Major League Baseball has asked him to do in terms of going through rehab. He's 29 years old. He served his penance from a legal standpoint. Is Urias a guy that if you're the Cardinals and you know you need pitching, he's thrown 200 innings in the majors before, do you do that knowing that there's going to be a little blowback?
Yeah, I kick the tires on it. What do you have to lose?
Here's the thing. Are people going to not buy tickets? Because
you're
you're already not buying tickets.
You're making an effort, and everybody has made mistakes along the way. 2 years on the shelf, that's a long time for a baseball player. But as you mentioned, at his age, you have to think he has something left. I'm sure somebody's going to stage a workout for him so other teams can take a look at him.
Yeah.
But for a guy with his skill set, I'm definitely kicking the tires.
Yeah. And by the way, it was 23, so he's missed 24 and 25, and he's eligible to come back now. I'm absolutely doing that, and I kind of think, as opposed to Trevor Bauer, because nobody liked Trevor Bauer, right? That was different.
Yeah.
This is a guy that in that clubhouse he just didn't say anything. He was not disliked in that clubhouse, and somebody in Major League Baseball is going to sign Urias.
I agree. Yeah.
He won 20 games in 2021, had a 2.96 ERA. Let me see. That year he had 185 innings, but he can at least give somebody a chance. And if you're a franchise like the Cardinals, right now, it's going to be Gray, McGreevy, Liberatore, probably still Pallante, right? And then you give Leahy an opportunity next year. No, Michaelis isn't coming back.
No.
Otherwise, you're going to have to go get somebody somewhere.
I think you have to go get somebody anyway. I don't think there's enough big league ready starting pitching currently in the organization. Now, I know they thought Roby might be a guy, but he's hurt. Cooper Jerpy was a guy they were going to use out of the bullpen. He's hurt. Quinn Matthews had the shoulder issue, and since he's been back, he's had his moments where he's been okay. But I think when you look at a baseball team for an entire season, you better have somewhere between 25 and 28 arms that you can use. I think the average is 28. I think we were like 23. And it shows. It shows. And you look at the Dodgers. I mean, we all looked at that team in the spring training and said, oh, my goodness, look at everybody they bring. And combined, they had probably more guys miss starts than have actually had starts. Yeah. And it just shows you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And also, if you baby some of these guys to the point where, oh, I have an ouchie or I have a boo-boo, I don't know if I can go. And then he gets shut down. And it really just sets everything else back. So with this, you need to stock up on big league eligible pitching, not big league guys who had a cup of coffee in the big leagues and got sent out. I'm talking about guys who can actually come in and get an out and win a game and get you 6 innings. I'm looking for somebody like that. I'm not from the experimental standpoint, save it for somebody else.
That's one of the problems, not a problem, but it's one of the differences with it being a power game, because it used to be with Dave Duncan when it wasn't so much a power game. Dunk could give a guy like Woody Williams a game plan, and Woody could be a 500 pitcher somewhere and then be a 750 pitcher here, 750 winning percentage. We could name a dozen guys right now. Yeah. We could name the Todd Wellemeyers and the Bottenfields of the world and Joel Pinheiro and Weaver. I mean, there's
games change, man.
Yep. And so you just can't import a guy and have a pitching coach say, okay, here's a game plan, go execute that and you're going to win. Yeah. It doesn't work that way anymore.
It doesn't. We are enamored with swing and miss. We are enamored with power arms. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have 5 guys like that. But when you have all guys who are pitch to contact, it's pretty easy to game plan against.
Yeah. Matthew Rocchio is here. And let's see, being a baseball player is more than just being good at baseball. It should also test our character, in my opinion. Jay Renegade, thank you very much. Yeah, that's why it will be difficult for franchises. And I mean, the guy with the most hits in the history of baseball had character issues. And the guy that with the highest batting average in the history of the game had character issues, right? Ty Cobb, Pete Rose. There are a lot of character issues out there. And it depends, I guess, how much value you place on that, how much value you place on giving somebody a second chance, and then ultimately how much value you place on winning.
Well, the other thing that goes into that, sports has now tried to find safeguards and provide more help for individuals compared to just shrugging their shoulders and say, what do you want me to do? I mean, there are a lot more mandatory items that have to come about in order for you to be able to proceed with your career. So for me, looking at people who have this issue now, and some people are going to fall off the wagon. I get that. But I think because of the support systems that are in play by the Players Association, by the league, I think you have a better chance of rehabbing an individual where he can go through his life on and off the field and be a legitimate contributor to society.
I agree with you. Matthew.
I want to point out, though, just in fairness, this technically would be giving Julio Urias a third chance because he got dinged for battery in 2019 and couldn't be involved in any violent actions for 52 weeks a year. He did that. The next event was in 2023. But the thing is that he played no contest, I think, on the 2023 stuff. So we know he did it. So this is giving him a third chance. And it's giving a third chance to a guy who we know, like factually, didn't go to jail for it, but did assault and hit his wife in a public arena at an LAFC game.
So,
and I just don't know if that's the guy you give the third chance to.
Well, I would say this. Maybe a change of scenery might help him also. Obviously, we're not saying come to St. Louis and beat up your wife. We're not saying that.
No.
But I think the environment and obviously being on notice and knowing that this is it probably will have more of an impact, because when you're sitting at home for 2 years trying to figure out what life is going to look like, and you get one more kick at this can, I think you probably straighten up. And if you don't, you make it's a short-term deal. There are provisions in there, man. If you cross the line, then adios.
Yeah, one strike and you're out.
Yeah. I also do want to say, I put it up on the YouTube poll. Just, do you want the Cardinals to give Julio Urias a chance? And right now we have 61% voting yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
And we'll keep that up for the whole show.
And thank you, Jay Renegade. I'm not saying that someone can't be rehabilitated, but I think Urias has used up all of his goodwill. That's why it's a question for anybody that signs him, because there's going to be, without question, there's going to be backlash when and if he signs somewhere. There's going to be public backlash. There's going to be fan backlash. There's going to be protests. So, yeah, you're going to have to deal with that if you're a team that signs him.
Yeah, I think, in this case, though, and again, depending on where he's at, the backlash is, I think people are a little bit more forgiving in this situation.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if it's going to be something where you will have people saying, I'm never buying a ticket again because this guy's on the team.
Yeah.
Because apparently he was a better person than Trevor Bauer.
Mhm.
So I'd like to just see. And maybe that's an eyeball conversation if you're Chaim Bloom and you have to look a person in the eye and say, I think that we're going to give this a shot.
And by the way, it wouldn't be the first time that the Cardinals brought in somebody with a similar background. They did trade Chris Duncan for Julio Lugo, who had been accused of and dealt with the exact same thing. So the Cardinals have been known to acquire players that have done that in the past.
Carol Miller says if physical abuse is involved, no thanks. Graham also says, I don't think it's too hard to refrain from hitting my wife, but what do I know? I'm not a professional ball player.
Oh, we shouldn't laugh.
Margaret Frogger also says double standards all over the place. Graham says, bring back Ozuna at this point. Why not? And this could be Ben does point out that Deshaun Watson still does have a job.
Yes, he does. All right, Graham and Mike, you're there every day, so I want to get your take on this. Graham says, my hot take is that Ollie needs to go not because he's a bad manager, but because he will always have the Mo stigma attached to him, and I think that will harm Chaim Bloom. I do agree. I think that there's a segment of the fan base, and I don't know if they buy tickets anyway, that will cause Ollie to be guilty through association, but it has nothing to do with the quality of Ollie Marmol's managing in 2025.
I agree. I think that, that the association, Mo hired Ollie. Okay, we get that. And I've seen improvement with Ollie as a manager for every year he's been here.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, if you give Ollie a legit roster, this thing can be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a really good staff. They understand players of today. They're always trying to find another innovative way to give themselves an advantage legally. And I just feel like with a clean slate, and, as Chaim is going to have a reasonably clean slate when it comes to payroll, this is where I think Ollie's at his best. I think Ollie is one of the best teaching managers I've been around. And he does a lot of individual work with some players and just recognizing things, because it's not like he's done this. This is the only place he's done. He's done it in the minors since he was in his 20s. So I'm of the belief that he is a guy that can probably have a better understanding and a better relationship with some of the younger players and help elevating their game. And I think we've already seen it with some of the players.
I think if you get to September 2nd and you're 3 games up in the National League Central next year, the year after that, I don't think anybody, well, I don't know. Maybe somebody will say, you know what, I'm not going to go to the game and watch the first place team against the second place team because Ollie Marmol's the manager.
And he was hired by Mo.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody is not going to buy tickets because of that.
If that's the case, then we have, that person has bigger issues, because the bottom line is you want to see your team do well. And, it's easy for the manager to be the whipping boy. Okay. And how many times have we seen managers? I'll give you a good example locally. Joe Torre. Joe Torre's a good manager. Joe Torre leaves St. Louis, where he had a collection of players. He goes to New York and wins. Mm-hmm. So, it helps when you have good players. And I think you can name any sport. The successful coaches and managers have had some good players to work with, and those players help other people grow their game.
And the people that played for Joe, and we observed it and thought it, but when you talk to people like Bernard Gilkey and Ray Langford and Brian Jordan and Tom Pagnazzi, guys that played for Joe Torre here in St. Louis, they said the results that he got with that group of players was pretty unbelievable. Yeah. Even the group that was there, that was playing, said it's unbelievable.
We really aren't that good.
Yeah, right.
And I'll go back to this, man. If you don't have pitching in this game,
that's what it's all about.
You know what? You might as well just find something else to do. And right now, we don't have enough pitching that can go out and give you 7 innings. We don't have enough pitching that can pitch back-to-back days out of the bullpen. We don't have enough pitching with swing and miss stuff. And there's a lot of things that we're lacking. But who knows? Help may be on the way. And there's multiple options on trying to address it.
Yeah, and I am glad. Have you ever met Matt Pierpont, the pitching guy? I haven't met him. He came from Seattle. He's their director of minor league pitching.
Yeah, I met him last year.
And I don't know. I don't know him, but I know the job. I watch Seattle and the way they pitch. And he was part of a system that really did a great job of developing young pitching. Hopefully the Cardinals will be able to do something similar to what that.
I tip my cap to him because when the trade deadline rolls around, Seattle's always a team with surplus in pitching.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for a bat somewhere.
Right.
Everybody else is looking for pitching. Seattle said, we have enough of that. They are always short on the bat side. So hopefully he can get that philosophy down and get the sort of players that can really address that. And if they do, you can here's the one thing about this game. You can get healthy quick. People are, it's 3 or 4 years. No, we've seen teams turn it around. And we've seen teams in St. Louis and other sports turn it around overnight. And I'm not saying that's going to actually happen, but I like the chances if you can get a few things that work with you. One of which, if you can stay healthy. 2 of which somebody has a career year. 3, if you have a person who has just now turned the corner and now because of the environment, maybe it's where he's hitting in the order or maybe where he's pitching in the rotation or what pitches he's developed. It only takes 3 or 4 guys like that to have that sort of run, and all of a sudden it becomes contagious.
Yeah, so we'll hope that that would happen. I'm going to get story time from Mike Claiborne coming up, but Missouri, get ready because the wait is almost over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming soon to the Show Me State, and you can sign up today. New Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets when we launch on December 1st. Download now and place a $5 bet when DraftKings goes live in Missouri. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning-fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when we officially go live in Missouri, you'll be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions, safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code STL Sports to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when DraftKings goes live on December 1st in Missouri. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. All right, Claibs is working all the time at night, so have you had a chance to watch any of the Jerry Jones documentary?
Are you kidding me? So I had someone call me and say, have you seen this yet? I said, no, I heard about it. I said, this is right up your alley. You were around when that was going on. And so
give the background there of why you were around.
Well, I was in the agent business. I was working with Jim Steiner here in St. Louis, and we represented a number of NFL players, some baseball players, even Bob Bassett in hockey. But we had players like Jerry Rice and Roger Craig. I had Leon Lett and Tony Hill with the Cowboys. And that was at a time when Leon, who no one had ever heard of, he emerges, and now he goes from the minimum salary to now we're talking about some real money. And so I had a great relation and still do with Jerry and Steven. And so all those stories and things you hear, I was, it was like old home week watching it. And I think I'm in episode 6 now.
Okay.
And one of the fascinating things, Barry Switzer is 87 years old.
That's incredible.
He looks better than Jerry. Well, Jerry's 83, I believe.
82,
but yeah, it's fascinating. And as I was saying, maybe I was telling Dave Green, I think this is better than The Last Dance of Michael Jordan.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why, the footage, just the way they set it up. And I'll tell you something, man, listen to Pat Summerall and John Madden. That's what this league misses. Those two narrating those games was fun, but just the footage that they had was just fascinating, man. And to get so many people engaged in this thing, I think it's award worthy. I don't know what's going to come out in that category that's going to be better, but it's very well done. It truly sums up the man in Jerry Jones and all the things that go with him.
So one of those things is the perception that he would rather have the soap opera to enhance his brand than actually win. You believe that?
No. He wants to win. Doesn't mind having a little bit of a bell and whistle to go with it, but winning is obviously the most important thing to him. And I think, though, when the years when maybe he doesn't think he has enough to win, then the soap opera becomes bigger, whether it's a contract issue or whether I'm going to fire a coach or not. All those things go into him, but he's a showman. I mean, he's the modern day P.T. Barnum.
I don't know, Claibs, if somebody in that building, unless the back injury for Parsons is severe and they're playing chess, not checkers, but somebody's got to say, no, you can't trade Micah Parsons. I mean, think of the Giants trading Lawrence Taylor to the Niners, or think about the Steelers trading TJ Watt to another content like the Chiefs. You can't trade a pass rusher like that.
They are very few and far between.
That's why he won, by the way, getting Charles Haley.
Yeah, and that's a great point you make. When you look at, I know people talk about, well, remember what he did with the Herschel Walker trade? Well, Green Bay's better than what Minnesota was, okay? So that means your draft choice won't be as good unless you're packaging those draft choices to get another player somewhere down the road. Now, that might be something that he may have in his back pocket. I haven't seen enough of the guys that he thinks are going to replace Micah Parsons. I don't think there is a player. But, Randy, it was the talk of the world. It was talk of the football. I mean, he trades a guy in the middle of pennant races, and no one was talking about pennant races. They were talking about Jerry Jones and what he did with Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
And Micah Parsons seems to be happy. He's making more money he's ever seen before. Green Bay, I think we had Kerry Davis on the other day on our Huddle Up with Howard show. And Kerry was emphatic about how good Green Bay could be. This is before the Parsons trade. And I thought they were going to be okay on defense anyway. If they stay healthy, then they might be the reason Dallas watches the playoffs on TV.
Yeah.
Because when you look at Green Bay, who knows what Detroit looks like? Chicago's going to be good or better. Minnesota should be as good, if not better. That division alone can gobble up the playoff spots. So it's going to be something that we'll all pay close attention to. But to your original point, I think this program, Netflix, is as good as anything I've seen.
By the way, I wonder about the Lions. They have 8 new coaches, lost both of their coordinators. And for any team that loses coordinators, this is something that you may remember, but Claibs and I still do. The football Cardinals in 1984 had an offensive coordinator by the name of Rod Dowhower, who became the head coach of the Colts. And Dick Jamieson took over as the Cardinals offensive coordinator in 1985. And he was a nice guy, but abysmal at the job. And I still have that PTSD. So I wonder about teams who have good offensive coordinators that lose them.
See, I really look at it now with so much information and technology where I don't know if it's a feel. It might be what the printout says. Dick Jameson, I agree with you. Wonderful person. But just it never clicked with the people that he was coaching.
Yeah.
But I think game planning now is much different than what it used to be in the 80s.
Yeah, there's no doubt. But even like a guy like Martz had a feel for calling a game. And I think some guys have it for play calling and some guys don't. And that's what I wonder about with
if you haven't done it at this level.
Yeah.
Because the game is very fast.
Yeah.
It's very fast. And when you have that situation, you have to have a guy who's been in that trench before at some level. And maybe it's not in the NFL, but some level, he's got to have ice water going through his veins and also having a real feel on what works with regard to his offense.
Yeah.
And defense. So it will be something to pay attention to. But I really feel like this season in football, be it college and the NFL, I think this is going to be one of the most epic years of football we've ever seen.
Why?
Because I think there's a lot more parity in the NFL now. Everybody has a big arm quarterback. Everybody has a legitimate receiver. Everybody's like, it's like to say, boy, if we could just have one more pass rusher, but everybody has one. Throw in the college game. And because of the portal and all the movement and the fact that we're getting quality games on TV early in the year, someone said to me yesterday, they apologized that Bama lost. I said, man, you can lose twice in September and find yourself in the playoffs.
You can now.
And so there are a lot of things that are going to make every game important. And just the coaching movement and just the fact that the NFL would never adopt the college game. Well, they have. And they've opened this thing up in the college game. So, oh, you want to do that? We can show you more things we can do because there are some very creative minds on the coaching front. And I think that coaching transition from the NFL, from coaching college football to the NFL, that transition seems to even be more seamless.
Yeah. People are, especially Bama fans, are going bananas because they've gone 5-5 in their last 10. Nick Saban had a 3-6 stretch in his first year. Now, he was taking over a bad program, but as you implement your program in college football, sometimes there's going to be a little bit of a lull. Kellen DeBoer is 116-17 as a head coach. I don't think that's.
I'm not worried about it. I really look at the fact that Bama fans, well, Coach Saban would have done this. Well, no, we don't know what Coach Saban. One of the great things about Nick Saban, his ability to adjust to his personnel, I thought was a key. Now, he still had his core values that you were going to apply if you wanted to play on the team. But I think there were certain guys he knew he could get to in a way that he couldn't get to with other guys. And I really believe that in his case, between the portal and just all the other shenanigans that were going on in college football, I think he just, I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
I've had enough.
Yeah. He told the story, I think it was before Congress, where he was having recruits over to his house and his wife came to him and said, "What are we doing here?" He said, "What do you mean?" And she said, it used to be that players would ask and their parents would ask about what we're going to do in college or in school. What's their major going to be? How is the football team? She said, now the only thing they ask about is money. How much am I going to get?
Yeah. And it'll change. Yeah. I kind of feel like two things are going to change. How the portal works and the NIL, that's going to change for sure. And I think that these power schools are getting together. They're going to walk away from the NCAA as we know it, go cut their own deal with the TV network. So that means you'll have the Ohio States and Texas is playing every week. Mm-hmm. That means you'll have more money available. So you've eliminated the middleman, that be at the NCAA. And the question is, how do you finance these other sports? That's going to be the next challenge.
Yeah.
But I think from a football standpoint, and maybe even basketball, it's going to be see you later.
Yeah. And do you think, and here's the way I look at college football now, and this is why Nick Saban's timing might have been perfect, because when during the heart of Nick Saban's coaching career at Alabama, school like Missouri didn't have a chance because they didn't have the big money to pay players. Now you look at them, you look at a guy, booster. Do you remember the guy's name from KU that gave them $300 million? A KU booster just gave them.
I'm blanking on the name, but
Davidson. David Booth. Yeah, gave them $300 million. You can buy a college football team now. Nick Saban was dealing against teams that actually probably were screwing up by not cheating. And they may have or may not have cheated a little bit in the SEC.
How do you cheat now in the NCAA?
You can't. There is no cheating.
They take it out off the board.
And so there's a guy that Eli Drinkwitz can call and say, "Hey, I've got this quarterback, Bo Prabula. He needs $2.5 million. Can we take care of it?" Yeah, no problem. Well, everybody can do that now. So Nick Saban had a distinct advantage in the prime of his coaching career, and that advantage is gone now.
Yeah, they caught up to it.
Yeah.
And so,
the rules have caught up to it.
And so now he says, well, there's nothing left for me to do, especially at this stage of his life.
Yeah.
Now, if Nick Saban was in his 40s or 50s, I guarantee you we'd have a whole new outlook on how this game is going to be played. But, his service to this game and this industry will always be greatly appreciated. I just look at now, where do we go from here? And at some point, the gambling impact will have it'll raise its head, and it won't be long.
Just like in the NBA or MLB, right?
Yeah, it's here, and once you allow that element to be part of who you are, toothpaste is out of tube. And I know they're trying to, in some states, try to curtail prop bets on certain things. They'll always figure out something else. There's always going to be another way to get to that mountaintop. So, again, I go back to this. I think it's going to be an epic year. There are going to be some teams that we're not thinking of. And I was watching North Carolina last night, and, Bill Belichick got the brakes beat off of him. But, if I had 70 new people, I probably couldn't remember their last names, let alone how I'm going to insert all these guys at one time.
Right. Yeah.
Along with this, if you're TCU and you're saying to yourself, oh, so now we're going to be the new whipping boys for new coaches. Like last year when they had to play Deion, if I'm there, Sonny Dykes, I'm telling my players, hey, look, we are not doormats. Let's go out here and show these guys how this game really works, because we've been together. They haven't, and they proved just that.
I think that the disrespect factor was really well played by Sonny Dykes, because what are we supposed to do as the media? I mean, it's Bill Belichick. A lot of people think that he's the best ever. I don't, but a lot of people
like
do.
the best ever.
I think Joe Gibbs winning 3 Super Bowls with 3 non-Hall of Fame quarterbacks, pretty impressive.
And he was coaching your favorite team too.
Well, at the time, yeah.
Okay.
Well, but he also took over a team that I hated, because he took over for George Allen.
That's right.
So he kind of lured me in with Hanny. But still, it's when you look at what he was able to, who does that? Nobody else does that.
And in that era too.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I look at certain eras and I thought that Redskin run they had was really good. I thought the 90s between the Niners and the Cowboys are really good. And I don't know if I've ever shared this with you. You give me that Redskin bunch, the 49ers and Cowboys of the 90s, the Rams Super Bowl team, and the first Baltimore Ravens Super Bowl team, and I'll take on any other team from 2000 on.
The Super Bowl champ with the greatest point differential of all time is the 99 Rams. And right there with them is the 91 Redskins. But the 85 Bears, I think we could all argue 85 Bears and 2000 Ravens are the 2 best defenses ever, right?
Yeah.
And then the most talented 1 to 53 teams ever are probably those Cowboys teams. I mean, they were losing free agents and replacing them with, it was kind of like getting a 5-star recruit. That's what Jimmy had going. And then obviously the 49ers, because Walsh had such, two things happened. Great evaluation, but then that staff was great too. He had, Mike Holmgren's on that staff and Seifert's on that staff. They had a terrific teaching staff there.
They did, and that's right. You hit the nail. They taught. They taught the game. I'm surprised. Walsh just didn't hand out his book to every player, which is one of my favorite books. And somebody was trying to find it. Supposedly it costs a small fortune.
Yeah, I think I might have it at home.
I have mine, and I read it every year just to make sure I'm still on point. And the thing is, a lot of those things that you read in the book still apply today. They may use a different term for it, or they may do things that's slightly different, but the basics of what he was trying to put out there was what was there.
And if you've never read Bill Walsh's book, spend the fortune on it.
Yeah,
and one of my maybe my favorite part is that he was ready to retire after the strike in '82, and Jim Hanifin talked him into staying. Exactly. Jim Hanifin talked Bill Walsh into staying, and then they win the Super Bowl in '84, and then go on to win the Super Bowl in '88, and then he retires, and Seifert takes over to win in '89.
The run you're talking about, by the way, is 3 of the 5 largest margins of victory in a single Super Bowl. The 90 49ers is the largest one ever. The 93 Cowboys over Buffalo, 52-17, and then the Redskins over the
Leon that fumble.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the season point differential for those.
No,
teams.
I know you're talking about that one. I was just, but he mentioned those, and I remember that all of those franchises had huge blowout wins because the Redskins in '88 blew out the Broncos, and I like that one because that's the one time in a football game I can remember watching the replay of that game where you actually could have driven a car through the lanes that the offensive line was open.
Timmy Smith.
Yeah. Where are they now?
So Skywalker 1982. I bet the Belichick era doesn't make it through the season.
Oh, he'll be there. I don't think he'll walk
How
away.
How about Jordan Hudson making her way onto TV last night from a luxury suite?
I don't know. Well, you knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, you did.
You knew that was going to happen. I think Belichick, he'll stay with this for a while. They're giving him everything he's asked for. So I just think it's a matter of trying to put 70 guys in a room and getting them to work on the same page. And remember this, and you and I have gone to football practices where, you would have thought it was the game.
Yeah.
The contact or lack of, I think, is the reason why I tell people I don't really get into the games. In college, I wait until the 1st of October. In the NFL, I basically wait until maybe the middle of October, if not Halloween, because most of these guys are not in football contact shape.
100%.
And who thought it was a good idea for everybody now to just not wear knee pads or thigh pads? I know you think you look cute, but 10 years after you're out of the game and you're on a cane or on a walker because you thought you were hot stuff on the field, I just don't understand it, man. I don't understand. They give you all these pads for protection.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't understand. That's what I love about Eric Dickerson. Eric Dickerson went to the equipment manager and give me every pad you have, and if you don't have it, go find it. Neck roll. Yeah, he was something.
Have you noticed the thigh pads with NFL teams?
I don't notice them because they don't have them.
If you wear thigh pads right now, a lot of the players have them, like their number is on their thigh pad, and like you can see it outlined on the pants. Like I saw Mike Evans at a Bucs game, and I saw a 13 on both his thigh pads. I'm like, shouldn't we be focusing on the safety factors and not the one more way for you to market yourself?
The problem is these guys think they're invincible. It'll never happen to me, is how they look at it.
Parcells would make his guys.
Oh, yeah.
He wouldn't let them practice unless they had thigh pads on.
Parcells would he wouldn't let you wear. You had to wear specific gloves because you had to wear the gloves, especially for an offensive lineman. He wanted you to wear white gloves if you were a receiver at all times. But if you were a lineman, he wanted you to wear the gloves of the opposing team's jersey so that your hands would blend in.
Right.
You know,
it was great.
Parcells lives in Jupiter part of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So he's always at spring training. And he and Ron Wolf, one of the great architects of football, sit in one of our boxes. And just to sit there with them before a game and listen to them talk football and the stories that they both have. I'll tell a quick story about Roy Green. So Parcells and I talked. He said, "Do you ever see Roy Green?" I said, "Well, I talk to him every now and then." He said, "Let me tell you about that son of a bitch." And I said, "What did he do?" He said, "We couldn't stop him." He said, "One day we're out in warmups and he comes out and he says, 'Coach, what you got for me today?' He said, 'We got your ass today. We're going to double you all day.'" Roy just grinned at him. You know, he had that big grin. He said, "Not going to be enough." He said he had 162 yards in receiving it out. He said from that point on, he said, "I was out of answers when it came to Roy Green."
That might have been the game. There was a game here. I don't know if it was 84, 85. Giants come into town and they're down a cornerback and they moved LT out to corner. Remember?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I do remember that.
Yeah. And he had no chance against Roy. And Roy, if Roy played today, he would be illegal. He was 6'2", 210, as fast as Deion Sanders.
He'd have 2,000 yards in receiving.
Yeah. He was
I'd probably be having him on a jet sweep as well. You know what? Roy Green, I would just have the ball in his hands all the time. But Roy Green, I've said this, if he was on the Rams, greatest show on turf team, he'd have 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
In receiving. Let him do a few other things with the ball in his hands, and who knows what he could have done.
Yeah. When he got traded to Philadelphia, he was in Arizona. He gets traded to Philadelphia, and one of the writers said, "You feel like you've lost a step?" They gave that grin. "Yeah, but I had one to lose."
He was the best, man.
Those right there, not going to be enough. And yeah, but I had one to lose are two incredible lines when you talk about crap talk. And it's insane, man. Man, we were lucky.
And I think that today's guy doesn't know how to chirp like those guys.
That's clean.
You know, and if you watch a guy in college, if you watched college, the NFL player maybe in the last decade that I've been most disappointed by, because I thought he had a chance to be like Roy Green, was Sammy Watkins. You know, big, fast, outran everybody in college, and just never was able to live up to the standards that I had set for Sammy Watkins.
I thought he was a guy that thought he had it, but didn't really want to go to the next level because he was pretty comfortable. And that's the problem you have with some guys. You know, they make good money these days, and, you know, they don't want to get hurt, and they don't want to see what the next gear looks like. So they're content because everybody tells them they're already good.
And Roy, it was a safety. So he knew about hitting and getting hit, and he knew what those defensive backs were trying to do, and that really benefited him too.
You guys already touched on both the Bama and the Belichick factor. If who's there longer, DeBoer or Belichick?
Oh, I think DeBoer is.
Even if you think the Alabama boosters glom together and do an old Texas A&M and say, "Hey, we'll come $70 million.
$70 million.
$70 million.
He ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
He's a good coach. Yeah, and I agree with you.
They don't have oil money.
The fact that his record before he got here is better than anybody else Alabama hired before they got here. It's going to take some time because the recruiting thing now, just like the young man who was from St. Louis, Miles McVay.
Yeah.
He went to East St. Louis, and he was one of their top signees. He's now playing at North Carolina.
Yeah.
And
they've had 66 guys since Saban left. 66 players transferred out of the Alabama program.
And you know what? I don't know if any of them will be better because I just think the Bama program, for what it stands for, you can always hear somebody from Alabama's name getting called on Sunday, getting called in the early round of the draft. Some of these guys, obviously the money has come into play, may not have the fanfare. They may have the money, but they won't have the fanfare that comes with it.
All right, let's hit on a couple of others. I want to touch on the really overreaction to Arch Manning.
There you go.
I mean, you got a guy making his first start going into the house of the defending national champions, and the team loses by a touchdown, and all of a sudden the guy's a bum and he can't play.
Did anybody see that offensive line, their protection? I didn't think he had a chance. I mean,
not great. No,
I thought that well, he didn't have the deer in the headlight look. He just didn't have the options. And they showed him some things. And you know what? I'm gonna tip my cap to Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator. And think about this. You have all winter to prepare for one game, and you know everything that Arch Manning can do from high school.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for a guy who's been on the pro level, who understands how to game plan, I'm not sure that I don't think that's going to happen to Arch Manning every week, because he won't run into a coach like Matt Patricia who has players that can play. So I'm not worried about him. I think the offensive line needs to tighten up a little bit, and maybe I think they had more of a problem with some of the looks that Ohio State showed.
1995, an SEC quarterback in his 7th start as a college football player goes 8 for 25 for 126, no touchdowns and an interception at home against Mississippi State. His name was also Manning, Peyton. So Peyton Manning goes 8 of 25 in his 7th start for 126. And
it worked out.
Yeah, he turned out to be okay.
Okay.
Maybe the guy won't wind up being as good as his uncle, but quarterbacks are going to have bad games now and then.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
And he'll have another one before it's over with.
Yeah. I mean, it was obviously bad. To your point, the protection from the Texas line wasn't great. Patricia was scheming it up and throwing stuff at him from every which way.
By the way, what happened to their running game that day?
Yeah, nowhere.
That was the other thing. They had no run game.
No run game at all. But the issue is that very first play, it was prime. Very first play, it's a bootleg rollout, and he duffs it 5 yards short of the receiver. Fourth quarter, and again, you can always throw out is this against the shell defense and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He does throw for almost all of it. Throws for like 130 yards in the fourth quarter. Manufactures a couple good drives. Is it against a defense that's kind of not playing hard as much anymore? I'm not sure. But to your guys' point, it's just, I understand that people reacted to the overreaction of him being the Heisman favorite. And that's why people just wanted to jump on, and that's how people are always going to do it. It's going to be interesting, though, kind of the next 3 or 4 weeks, how he progresses. Because even though that's still not enough time, people are going to be looking at every which way.
Well, that's happening on a lot of campuses right now. Now, Manning's name is the most prominent, but there are a lot of campuses that are wondering, what does our quarterback look like, next week and the week after? And I'll give you this one right down the road here in Columbia. They don't know what they have.
No, he looked pretty good against.
He looked good.
It was against Central Arkansas.
He was against a blood donor. So I mean, you don't know now. This week, Kansas, they probably was sitting in the room all winter too, trying to figure out how we're going to do something with Missouri. So that's why I say you have to be really careful at this time of the year when it comes to teams who game plan for you, because they've had a lot of time to prepare. And I think it's a fun time, but it's a time that can sometimes be misleading.
You guys talked about this earlier. The money and the way that NIL has taken away the ability for certain programs to get away with certain things. RDH 66, the Big Ten, the North, has more money than most of the SEC, the South. With NIL, Big Ten is the new SEC. No more free labor. Our good friend Charlie Marlowe, Ohio State and Big Ten honk, was on Twitter, saying that the Big Ten is claiming victory over the SEC, as the SEC did not have a very good week. Obviously, Ohio State and Texas. Bama, though, has a bad game. A lot of SEC games didn't go their way necessarily, except for LSU and Clemson. So a lot of people are saying that the lack of being able to be the only ones potentially cheating has shifted the power base in college football. Do you guys feel that?
They have won the last 2 championships.
It is.
Right?
I think it's a little early for that. I think the playing field is about to become more level. I think what you have, the SEC offers more tradition in certain regards. I think the weather, the fact that they're recruiting kids that grew up in that part of the world, and I think that's a plus for them. I don't know how many guys you're going to get out of Muskegon, Michigan, that's going to step in and play like you're going to see some guys in the SEC. So it's level for now, and trust me, there are going to be ways that these programs and these conferences are going to try and give themselves further advantage. We see it's money now. I'm sure it'll be something else that'll be attractive to them. And once they do that, then we'll see the same schools or the same conferences in the championship game. I don't think an outsider outside of the traditional conferences is going to have that much of an impact.
And I really think that because it is, and I'm a big team guy, but it's becoming more of a quarterback game than it ever has. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Who's doing the best job of getting quarterbacks inside their buildings
and getting them ready?
Yeah.
We go back to Arch Manning. Here's a young man who had the opportunity to be around 4 legitimate quarterbacks in his family. Also, he gets free tuition to the Manning camp, where all the other great quarterbacks. I mean, so and he had an off day. But you're going to see other guys that are going to have the specialty training that's going to give them a little bit of an advantage over somebody else. And the question is, can the people that he's leading keep up? Because you're talking about a guy who has to show verbal leadership skills, physical leadership skills, and just understanding how to embrace a team. Everybody can't do that. You're going to have some guys who might be a little quiet. And I was thinking about Troy Aikman when how they said he was quiet until a couple of times he didn't like some things Barry was doing.
Right, yeah. Then he takes over as coach.
Exactly. But when it's over, the fact that you have to make sure that you put him with other quality individuals so we can all get it at the same time. Because the last thing a quarterback needs to do is be an extra coach. He's got to worry about his job and also making sure that everybody else knows what their job is.
Yeah, and that's why it makes sense for guys to stick around, right? To build that camaraderie and assume a leadership role.
I just don't think the one and done is going to work. You see a lot of guys hopping around for the money, and I'm anxious to see how many guys who leave a stable program and go elsewhere, how well does that work for them when they go somewhere else? And then you're just there for a year. I'd like to see them change that rule with regard to how many moves you can make.
Agreed.
Because we see guys that are already in college for the 6-7 years as it is, but I'd like to see them change that rule to create a little bit more stability.
One free move, and then after that, you have to sit a year before you can play again, just like the old years.
That's fine. I can live with that.
Yeah. So you get the free
or
one.
If the coach leaves. Coach leaves, you're free to go.
Then you're free to go. Yeah. I think that makes all the sense in the world.
But you can't go with him.
Yeah. No. But do you still think at the end of the day, and we talked about schools like Mizzou and Indiana being able to get back into to sneak into the Big Ten or to the blue blood area, but the blue bloods are still going to be the ones, right? It's still going to be at the end of the day, when you get to end of seasons, it's going to be Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, Texas. I think at some point USC will probably find their way back in there. It's going to be those dozen Notre Dame, 15 blue bloods that are still going to be there every year.
I agree. And I think when you look at the Missouris and the Illinois of the world, I think it's incumbent upon them to make sure that they can remain relevant every other year or every 2 years where they really feel like they have a good team, which is why it's very important for those programs to keep those players together. And let's face it, both Missouri and Illinois have made market improvements within the program.
Yeah.
And they're to the point now where they get some national play, but they want to be more consistent. They don't want to be a top 25. They want to be a top 10. They want to eventually be a top 5. How you get there, you can do that every now and then because somebody's going to slip up above you.
Yep.
You can do that, but you also have to make sure that you keep the program together, not only from a coaching standpoint and its assistants, but also that those core players as long as you can.
Go back to when Mizzou started in the SEC and it was a downtime for Florida and Georgia, and they were able to take advantage of it. They were able to get players like Macklin and Daniel and Alexander and that whole gang in there, all those good defensive players that wound up going in the first and second round. Yeah, that's exactly the way to play it. And don't assume that you can be there every year. I think you just have to be realistic about what your capabilities are and say, okay, we'll take our shot every 5th, 6th year, but we can't do it every year.
Not yet. Now, the one thing that I feel for Missouri and Illinois, they have made a commitment to the programs. And when I say that, the facilities are top notch. They used to just shrug their shoulders and say, but now they've said, you know what, we can do that too. We can make our facility from the stadium to the locker rooms to the lounges and everything else top flight. And for some reason that attracts kids.
It does. Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
Wish I was there.
Mizzou's apparently is as nice as anybody's now.
I was at Mizzou for both basketball and football this offseason and just looking at their program, looking at their facilities, and I'm like, holy cow. This is, and they still, the construction with the stadium is still ongoing.
Right.
So, I like the direction of where they're going because they're pushing all their chips in and feeling like they could be top echelon SEC. And if you're top echelon SEC, that means you're top 15 within the country in rankings.
Back in May, they dedicated the Demetrius Johnson Players Lounge, and it's incredible that what players have access to.
Yeah.
Just being a football player, that's a pretty
Why
cool
even
room.
go home?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's got everything you would ever think of, and again, those are some of the small things that attract young players. And if that works for them, then so be it.
Yeah. Terrell Widener, if you want to put that back up there, Matthew, he mentioned that the key moment of Saturday's Texas-Ohio State was the coaching staff in Texas running Manning 3 times inside the 10-yard line, trying to do the tush push. He said, it's hard for me to believe that Texas does not have one runner, and they have 4 new offensive linemen too. That was probably not the best set of play calls by the Texas group.
Sarkisian is a really good play caller too, but I think they were trying to make that statement. Listen, there's plenty of statement moments in the season. I'm not sure if that one was worth dying on a hill for.
No, and especially because you've got play action. You do have a tight end.
Yeah.
And you could have thrown it into the end zone.
One thing yesterday I was watching, and I hate to admit it, but each week we're talking to Southeast sports fans, Hannah Barton, Randy, and I don't want to, and Hannah's a big South Carolina fan, and I don't want to completely admit it, but I'm all about Lenore Sellers as my Heisman hopeful this year. I think he's fantastic.
He's really good. Yeah.
I think South Carolina is going to be dangerous. Him and Clay Harbor are going to hook up for like 7 more of those 60-yard touchdowns. Probably he's going to be a monster. Legitimately, I think South Carolina is going to be a problem for Mizzou, and I think Lenore Sellers is finishing top 3 in the Heisman Trophy voting.
So the Heisman Trophy, let me address that for a second. It used to be a legitimate award where you were giving a guy his due because of what he did. Now it's a popularity contest. It normally goes to a quarterback or a running back. I remember, and you do too, when Hugh Green was so good. He was defensive player.
Second.
And so when I look at that, they used to say you're only as good of a candidate as your SID is, because the SIDs would pass out and would make sure everybody knew who you were. So I don't necessarily think that the Heisman Trophy has the same merit with regard to awarding the best player, because sometimes, in my opinion, the best player in the game might not be a quarterback. It might be somebody else who's having a really good year. So I'd like to see them break it up like they do now with the separate awards before the Heisman Trophy is announced. I think that has more impact.
Yeah, I'm with you. And because, like, I was glad Travis Hunter won last year because it kind of broke the mold.
Yes.
But it shouldn't just be a quarterback award. And sometimes, like Orlando Pace's last year in college, he was the best player in college.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
But not enough people recognized that a lineman could be the best player in college football.
Tell you what, a lot of defensive ends that recognize he's pretty good.
Yeah,
he was mauling people that year. But and that's my point. Where we get caught up in the so-called glamour positions, or as I like to say, the last guy who touches the football. Though there's a lot of things that happen before that last guy touches the football, and I wish they could give more credit to those players because they're having heck of a years at their positions.
Yeah, and you're right. You've got all those other awards, and they should just have more meaning. And maybe there should be an offensive player of the year like the NFL has, defensive player of the year. Maybe they need to enhance the Butkus and the Bolitnikoff and all of those other awards that they have. Yeah, it's a good call. All right, Claibs, you've got Cardinals tonight. By the way, is John still out?
John is he was on assignment yesterday, but he's back tonight.
Okay.
We're doing a game from the Champions Club tonight.
Oh, nice. Good. Okay.
So that's always a fun place to do it from. And then I think John goes back on assignment.
Okay.
And we'll probably see John later in the week. And so Ricky and I have the game tonight, and Matt Pauly will have the star of the game, and here we go.
What do you do when they send you out on assignment?
Oh, man. Sometimes it's been nothing. There's some cities that I probably don't go to as often as others. But then there are also other assignments that I have to maintain. So it's and you know where that came from. Mike Shannon.
Yeah.
Remember when Jack was doing the grandstand show and Mike didn't have another reason other than say he's on assignment
elsewhere. Yeah.
So we just it's a Shannonism that remains a tradition within the broadcast booth.
So one of the great things that Mike Shannon did, and of many, Mike was one of our all-time favorites. So during the All-Star break, Mike could go on these extravagant fishing trips, deep sea fishing trips. And I would do the Wednesday night or Tuesday night. No, it was Wednesday night after the All-Star game. I would do the outdoor show with Bill Seibel and Tony Albright. And Mike would call in and do a report from his fishing trip and then write it off because it was part of it was a work expense.
I remember one year he called from Alaska. And I said, where are you? He said, I'm in Alaska. I said, what part of Alaska? He said, Alaska. He didn't even know where he was at. But he was truly like the bad penny. He would turn up anywhere when it came to outdoors.
Yeah.
And I remember going to Canada with him a couple of times and just it was different. But you're right. I forgot all about that. But he would call. He would call.
That was great. What was golf on the road with Mike Shannon like?
Ooh, man. If one went if he hit a Titleist into the rough, he'd be making birdie with a Callaway. That's all I'm saying. I mean, he kept like a magazine of balls in his pocket, and they were never the same. Wherever he got them from, I don't know. But he was fun. And he always wanted to press on the back nine. Always wanted to do that. And it was a pleasure to play with him because he played quick. We're playing the Bears Club in Jupiter, and there are these ladies playing in front of us, and they were very, very slow. And Mike and I are just twiddling our thumbs, and this guy pulls up and looks at us. I said, "It's not me, man." And he goes up and he sees who it is. He said, "This will be the last time I play. I'm gonna build my own course." It was Michael Jordan.
Oh, really?
And he called.
And he did.
He went through like 5 different designers until he finally found an architect to build his course. Grove 23 is what it's called. It's a fabulous place. First place I ever saw them bring out drones, bring your food and drinks out in a drone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then they got in some issues with the FCC about frequencies or whatever. I don't know if they still do it or not, but last time I was there, they did.
That's incredible.
Yeah. But yeah, Mike was a fun guy to play with.
That's
creative
great.
scorer.
Yeah. By the way, one other quick Mike Shannon story that I have when I was with the Cardinals in the 90s, and I think he did this. I know you might have even lived this, but you'd be get up early and have breakfast, and you'd be sitting in the hotel breakfast restaurant, and Mike would walk in from a night out. You'd still be eating breakfast, and he'd walk out with his golf clubs.
Oh yeah, I remember.
He wouldn't sleep.
He had me out one night. We're in Chicago. We're playing Cog Hill. It's crack of dawn. We get back to the room about 5:30, maybe 6. And we had 7:08 tea time. So literally, that was my first turnaround. I'm on number 7. I'm like this, and he's like, he never missed a beat. But when he came back, he got a nap in. He said, "All I need is 45 minutes."
And he would
go all night.
You told me about a sleep study, right? He had a unique sleep. I don't know if it would be called an illness, but a unique ability to not have to sleep.
Yeah. I never seen anything like it before. But he say, all I need is about 45 minutes of quiet. And then he go all night. I couldn't do it.
No, legendary.
I paid a severe price.
Mike Shannon was legendary.
Yes, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah. That's why, isn't that why they called him the Moon Man?
No, the reason why they call him the Moon Man, they're out on the field or stretching one day. And Mike looks up at the moon and says, it won't be too long before that we're putting a man on that moon. And this is well before Kennedy had even said anything about being a man on the moon. And they just said, there he goes. Now you're the Moon Man. And that's kind of how it started.
Oh, really? That's great. He was a piece of work. He was as good as it got.
You guys were talking about the Heisman a minute ago. I was just doing a little research. You mentioned Orlando Pace.
Yeah.
Finished 4th in the Heisman voting in 1996. In 1995, who wins the Heisman? The man he's blocking for, Eddie George. But going back, I went back 10 years. And from 84 to 96, there are 4 offensive linemen who finished top 10 in Heisman voting. There hasn't been a single one since.
There you go.
And I guess that just kind of shows. And by the way, Bill Fralick, Tony Mandrich, Zach Weigert, and then Orlando Pace, the highest finishing ever offensive lineman, or at least in the last 40 years.
Beast, man.
Yeah.
He was a beast. Mandrich had his own set of issues. And Zach Weigert from Nebraska, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, St. Louis Rams.
St. Louis Rams.
Second round pick.
Yeah. And so that just kind of shows to your point. I mean, literally, since Orlando Pace finishing 4th, a single offensive lineman has not finished top 10 in the Heisman Trophy.
You know why? Because the people who vote don't know offensive lineman if they got blocked by one.
Damn right.
And to me, I've always enjoyed line play. but the people who I know who vote, they don't pay attention to that. And there's some good players out there. Although, I don't know about you, but I think that era with Pace, guy with Baltimore,
Ogden,
guy in Seattle,
Walter Jones.
yeah, that might be the last of the Mohegans when it came to all around guys who could not just pass block, but could grab a hold to you, and the next thing you know is 2nd and 1. I mean, they were that kind of guy.
Yeah, and one of the unusual things about Orlando was that he would run block 40 yards downfield.
Yeah,
and he could run.
He could, yeah, because he's a basketball player. He played
Yeah.
basketball in high school, so he was a very good athlete and still is. I see him from time to time. He's now living in Vegas these days.
Is he?
Yeah,
I didn't know where he had moved to.
but one of the best players I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Period. And please do not let him put his hands on you because you weren't going to.
The big paws.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
RDH66 has just introduced me to a Shannon-ism I had not heard before.
Mhm.
There's only one perfect man, Jesus, and they nailed him to a tree.
Yeah, there's so many.
Gem.
Yeah.
Dave Green used to have a magazine, Sports St. Louis,
Mhm.
and remember it was the top 10 most influential people in St. Louis in sports. And the caption was Mike Shannon was the only guy that could park his Suburban in center field in Game 7 of the World Series and get out and leave it running, and nobody would say anything. And that's just who he was.
Yeah, that's right. By the way, Bill Fralick, who I didn't realize he died at the age of 56, but Bill Fralick was the 2nd pick in the draft in 1985, and Hanny got there in 1986. And so he relayed the story to me when Fralick finally signed. He held out for a long time and gets it right at the end of training camp. And play in NFL training camp during dinner, they always make the rookies sing at least once. And they're on Fralick. He said, "No, I don't want to sing." Then they're on him. And so the veterans say, "Come on, get up, and you're going to sing." So he gets up. They start singing, "I'm in the money. I'm in the money." You talk about a guy that got booed and food thrown at him.
Hey, what do you want to do about it?
Exactly.
Just looking through this stuff, I found this as well. In 1985, a Division III player finished top 10 in the Heisman voting. Joe Dudek, who was a running back from Plymouth
Yeah,
State,
I remember him.
was Division III, and he finished top 10 in the Heisman
Yeah.
voting.
That's pretty amazing.
That's
It's like
incredible.
Ed Marinaro finished in the top 10.
Yeah. By the way, we're going to have STL Sports Central Card Central 365 coming up with all the carries. Chip and Stefan and Chris are all here, so they're going to be on after us. One other thing about FCS players, and another fun football story. Claibs, remember when you, of course you do because you've told the story, when you asked Harry Gilmer about Jerry Rice,
Oh,
Harry
gosh.
Gilmer of the football Cardinals?
So we were at a game, and Harry Gilmer was one of the top scouts for the football Cardinals. And I just finished school. And I was asking him about how's scouting going this year. He said, "Well, we're looking at some players." I said, "Well, what about Jerry Rice?" He said, "Jerry who?" I said, "Jerry Rice. He's at Mississippi Valley State." He said, "Oh, we don't scout them schools." I knew we were done. I knew we were done. So we don't scout them
Mike,
schools.
I don't believe we scout those schools.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's great. So how much fun are you guys having? Chip is kind of like the social director, right, for the
Yes,
broadcast
he is in
crews.
charge of.
And so with Chip and BT and Jimmy the Cat Hayes and yourself and John Rooney and Ricky Horton and whoever else might be traveling along.
Sometimes Alexa Dad travels
Mhm.
with us. Katie Wu is around us a lot. So it's a very, it's our family on the road and obviously at home too. I don't know if anybody else in the business has more fun doing what we do. And we're not even winning a lot of games.
No.
If we were winning, it'd be a whole different story. But no, it's something that you always hope that you can get yourself involved in. But that this game changes a great deal. But when you have your real family with you, and we spend as much time with each other as we do with our own families, so it's fun and it's rewarding, and we've had a great time. And we're looking forward to having many more times like that.
Chemistry is such an important thing, and we don't think about it, right? When we aren't on the road like that, but the people that you're with, you need to have good chemistry and have it be light and fun every single day.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. Good. Claibs, always good to see
My
you, my
pleasure,
man.
man. We'll
That's,
do it again
one
soon.
of my all-time favorites, Mike Claiborne from here at STL Sports Central. By the way, you're going to be doing Huddle Up with Howard pretty much every week?
Huddle Up with Howard. We'll drop one tomorrow and kind of address some of the things that took place in the NFL and college football. I think we have a guest schedule tomorrow. I have to check the schedule, but we'll have some fun with it as we always do.
And by the way, you can put that back up. I will be out at the Stiefel Charity Classic. I'm going to actually MC the opening on Friday morning, so looking forward to that. September 4th through 7th at Norwood Hills. You can get tickets at stiefelcharityclassic.com. Don't forget, Friday night, you have that community concert with OAR presented by our friends at Car Shield. So you want to check it out. It's the Stiefel Charity Classic. It's always a great event, top shelf event. Mike and I have been out there a lot. I'm going to be out there this weekend. I'm going to stop by.
I am going to make a very valid attempt to get there.
Yeah. It's a great event, and we hope to see you out there at historic Norwood Hills Country Club for the Stiefel Charity Classic. It's already here this weekend in St. Louis. Matthew Rocchio doing a great job as our producer. Wilson, as always, helping us get on the air, and we appreciate you being a part of the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central, and a very special edition of Cards Central 365 coming up with the Carey family here on STL Sports Central. We will see you tomorrow morning just after 10.